We went through a hole in the fence. We we started to paint. I was taking pictures, and these guys, workers with pipes, came running through the cars, and Min saw them and said, "Yo, chill, chill," and then uh, they were running. They were going to come out and fuck us up, and we gathered all our shit and we ran out of the
Wow.
yard. And then we went that night. We went to Sutphin Boulevard, and
Sutphin.
yeah,
Yeah.
Sutphin, and
The E and
went,
the F.
yeah, and went there, and that's where I painted.
So the Henry that you're filling in a photo,
I'm filling in. Yeah,
that's
that's
in
Mare,
Sutphin on
Mare
the
and
E and the
Sutphin.
F.
Yeah,
Nice. And the famous photo of Min and Duro with the shopping bags entering the hole in the fence, that's the
Martha's.
okay, so that's not the time you're talking about in New Lots. Ha. Huh. So Martha got to go. I know that Charlie Ahern painted with Dondi and Zephyr one time.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably a very small handful of folks
You had the privilege
outside of the culture
Yeah.
who were actually accepted
Yeah,
in,
yeah.
which is insane to me, crazy to me.
Yeah.
Because even being a writer, a kid from Brooklyn, knowing other writers, it was still hard to get accepted into the inner circle or get
Yeah.
an invite. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think maybe the classic culture was changing. I know that
100%.
when we made Style Wars, of course I wanted Lee to be in the movie. He was
Mhm.
like, I don't think there should be a documentary about it. I don't want anybody seeing on film what I do and where I do it. It's my secret.
Everything that's being done in graffiti today could be done with the same spray can you stole out of somebody's garage or your father's basement or the hardware store.
You don't think that the availability of nozzles and special paint that is more
Yeah,
more like
it's
spray,
more
like
available, but we
spray gun.
found nozzles that
Yeah.
that had different effects. Testers had a thin cap. I remember people even experimenting with Floralife spray. Had these from a florist shop.
Yeah.
And for fat caps, there was no shortage. Niagara
Right.
spray starch, oven cleaners. We found one called parakeet spray for your bird cage. Had a great fat cap on it.
Wow.
So all these things, and it was really easy to steal a cap because you were leaving the can on the shelf, put
Yeah.
the top back on.
Yeah.
Nobody knew. So
Housewives all over the city were tearing their hair out because they'd take the can home and lift the lid off and there was no cap.
they didn't understand why only in New York all their product was getting returned. And yeah, they finally figured it out. I don't know what year, but now they make them female caps instead of male.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It took them decades to get wise to that. So
Funny.
So let me ask you this. Your current work, you're still putting together books. I've seen the TVS one, the RTW one of your 80s photographs, of subway photographs. You're still archiving that, correct?
I did that during the time when iBook was something that worked.
Mm-hmm.
And they've changed up to pages, and
Okay.
you can't do the same things with it anymore. So I stopped. I stopped before I came out with TMT and TNT and TFA and
Yep.
those guys. I have all the material, and I have to figure out another way to bring it out because I'm not going to bring it out through pages.
That's the problem I found with digital.
Yeah.
You build out this beautiful, like you had the website for a while. right? I think Mayor helped you
Mayor
build that
designed
out.
that beautiful website.
Was incredible.
Yeah.
But the technology changes so quickly
Right.
that it becomes obsolete.
Well, and it didn't actually give information. It was just a beautiful object. And everybody said, no, you got to have a website that actually you can put things on it that tells people this and that, and you can work it, that works. It didn't work. It was just beautiful. And I think maybe we're going to bring it out again because of it. I think, Mayor would like to do that.
Are you still shooting photos?
Am I shooting film? No, really, I've stopped that. What I've been concentrating on is organizing my archive. So that I know where things were, because at this distance from the past, a lot of the walls and things like that I have, I don't know anymore who did them. I don't remember. I can't tell the difference looking at the slide if it's done in Staten Island or Brooklyn. It's that kind of thing. And I need help from, which I'm soon going to go for, is to get help from people who, have that kind of obsessive knowledge of graph, where they know everything and they know where and who and when. And
I can speak for myself. I'd be glad to help you in any way I can. I know Dave Chino would love to work with you on that. You got Todd James. These guys are, between us.
I bet we could figure it all out.
Like we each had our era and our neighborhood and our line.
Yeah. When the trains are over, I mean, the trains are all important for me in terms of the culture and in terms of what it meant to become artists with the trains as part of your medium. Because, I mean, there is a soul to that system.
100%.
Absolutely. And it is so overwhelming that if you're a child growing up in the city, the subway system, just the noise that it makes, the heaviness of it, the extraordinary power, the inertia of that thing crunching through the city, the way
the air pressure when it enters the tunnel. Yeah.
It's awesome. And I have sort of a pet theory that wild style never would have developed just on a wall. You can paint it on a wall and people do amazing things, but I think it evolved and grew out of the relationship to the trains.
100%.
Yeah.
Is site specific, and it was designed, somehow the panel on a train, windows down, door to door, is this, it fits a word.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unlike, it's not a portrait, it's horizontal, right? It's landscape.
Yeah. And it has direction.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's built for moving language, right? Which is something Ramel Z was very in tune with.
Yeah.
So where do you see it? Is freights the next evolution of that?
It works. Freights are beautiful, and they have a heritage that comes directly from the subways.
But they don't come to your house.
You don't come to your house. But the other advantage is that they stay. People don't wash them off so quickly, and they go all over the country and in other countries,
Canada and Mexico.
Yeah. So that's amazing. I took a trip. I drove 2 years ago to California and back, just staying on the 2-lane roads all the way, which was really a lovely experience. But coming back, we were on Route 2 at just below the Canadian border, which goes from Montana all the way to, then the Great Lakes. It gets kind of chopped up, but you have this straight shot across, and every day we would catch up to the train that we had seen before and get a different view of it.
So I've had that experience where I'm driving and there are tracks parallel to the highway, middle of nowhere. But because it's far off and it's moving quickly, wild style is less effective, whereas big whole car blocks, guys like Nace, rest in peace, Cause when he was
Yeah.
doing it, King 157 from the West Coast.
Yeah.
Now Dual is doing a lot of them.
Uh-huh.
Dual RIS, right? Just kind of what Dondi did
Yeah.
or Scene
Yeah.
would do with his mad whole, just
Yeah.
super big and legible.
Uh-huh.
More so than a
Yeah.
complex wild style because
Wow. Yeah.
it never stops to pick up passengers.
Right.
It'd just be
Yeah. You get a, well, like I say, unless you're traveling all the way across the country, then you have a chance to see them in different.
or you go creep the yard. You
Yeah.
have to go look. That was my problem with handball courts, which you documented, wall art,
Mhm.
right? Where it went right immediately after the subways, is you had to go seek it out.
Right.
It didn't come to you.
Right.
You had to know
No.
where it was. Somebody
Yeah.
had, and
No,
like the Lee murals down here,
Yeah.
which was early.
Yeah.
I was in my father's van driving up the
Like
east
a Christie
side,
Street or
FDR, I guess
Oh,
that's
yeah.
called. And you could see it for a
Uh-huh.
moment.
Yeah.
And that caused me at a young age to go get on the train and try to find
it.
what I had seen.
Was that the handball court?
Yeah, in the middle of the
Madison
projects. What's that,
Street, yeah.
Smith houses?
Yeah.
Which, me being from Brooklyn, I didn't have any business in
Madison
someone
Street
else's
and
projects. You know what?
Chinatown. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
There's
Even
that.
though it's lower Manhattan, it was
Yeah.
dangerous. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? If you weren't
Yeah.
from there.
Right.
So we traveled to see these things. Whereas, I would bench at Atlantic Avenue train station and see work from the Bronx, from Harlem, from Queens, from all over the world.
Mhm. Yeah.
The 2, 3, 4, 5, just
Yeah.
boom.
Yeah. So have you been keeping up with all the paintings which are coming out of the yards? The last one ride to the Buff.
Yeah, I see it
People
when
paint
somebody
whole
documents
trains
it.
and
But again,
a
if
lot
you
of-
don't
yeah,
catch it, it gets one run.
yeah, that's
It's
right.
kind of, to me, it's masturbatory because you're
Yeah.
doing all that work and you don't
Right.
get the
Yeah,
payoff,
absolutely,
which is all your peers
they
seeing.
ride.
Yeah.
That has to run.
And if it
If it
only
doesn't
exists in a digital video or
Yeah.
photograph, then it could be AI or Photoshop.
Yeah,
You
Yeah.
could do your work from your computer and never have to risk
I go
going
back
in the
to I go
yards.
back to that. If it's separated from the trains, if it's a quiet archive, little, it has no meaning. I mean, I've seen magnificent whole trains and everything.
Incredible.
Wow, but
Insane.
it doesn't.
Okay,
do
I'm
it.
going to put this out
Doesn't
here
do it for me.
for the world because these guys have a team. I've met some of these European
Yeah.
writers. They have night
Uh-huh.
vision goggles and communication, and
Uh-huh.
they rehearse.
And discipline. Yeah.
They choreograph.
Yeah.
They practice. You're going to fill this, and then I'm going to.
Uh-huh.
They don't trip over each other.
Right.
It's coordinated.
Yeah.
It's strategic.
Yeah.
If you got that many guys who are willing to put in that kind of work, rather than focus on one train or one car, coordinated, do a little something on every car on the line,
Mhm.
and Monday morning they will have to run.
Mm-hmm.
They won't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
So if you really want to change the paradigm, this is what James Topp used to tell me about the throw up. The throw up was a weapon designed
Yeah.
to beat the buff.
Yeah. Right.
Small, quick,
Quick.
and multiple,
everywhere.
many,
Everywhere.
thousands of them.
Yeah.
They had no choice
Yeah.
but to let it run.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or you hate it or it's ugly or you think it's, beautiful. And I see
Yeah.
the beauty in a good throw up. It's an effective weapon. And
Yeah.
once that dam breaks, once they begin to let trains run with the, what do you call it in Star Wars? Mosquito bites.
Right.
Few
little
mosquito bites. Once that happens, the
Uh-huh.
dam busts.
Yeah.
And then we might be able to see something again.
Mm.
I'm just saying in London, and I just came back from London, their passenger trains are getting bombed now. And they're pulling off wild style panels
Wow.
again because they had
On the
cleaned it
main-
up.
on the main train lines.
because we're now getting into a time of financial deficit and
Yeah, yeah.
crisis.
So
So that's becomes
that's
low
returning.
priority.
Hmm.
I got a question. You brought up trains, and you spoke with a lot of passion when you were talking about trains and the energy that they have, and the feeling that you got when seeing them and all this, and like, you know, your film style wars really impacted the culture of graffiti, and it just brought it to another level. Like during a time when there wasn't as much media as there is today, it didn't get forgotten about. When you saw the trains, you saw the graffiti on them, you know, when did you know that this is something you wanted to do and you wanted to actually document it to this level and show it to the world?
Yeah. I was a newcomer to New York. I think I visited it a few times in the late 60s and early 70s, um, in time to see some of the earliest tags on the trains. And already that intrigued me, because it was something out of the, it was an example of youth breaking out of some kind of constraint. And when we moved here in 1973, it was already, in full course. It was already, people doing styles on trains, whole, not just tags but whole pieces. And there was an exhibit at the Razor Gallery, and these guys were, the old timers were showing their work. Um, and it wasn't until, and I was riding the trains
Was
underground.
that UGA, Hugo Martinez's
Them,
crew?
yeah, yeah. And then, yeah, mainly, Phase Two and the other guys,
Mm-hmm.
those guys. So, and I saw that show, but it was a time when there weren't any writers there. I didn't meet any writers. Um, and so I was intrigued, but I was riding inside, and I said, "Yeah, I'd love to take pictures of these things, but I can't." And it wasn't until I ventured out into I guess the Bronx first, 125th Street, and then the Bronx, that I thought,
Mm-hmm.
oh, here, yeah, maybe I can do this. So that's how I got started, and I wanted to do it. Why? Because I liked it, and I thought it was very unusual as a thing that people did, a very unusual and special way of youth rebellion. And it was evolving so quickly, and I had this appetite for it. I couldn't wait to see what was coming next. And so when I started going out to take pictures, that just set me off on a kind of obsession. Like I had to do it more and more. Um, and then I would hear about people doing something. They would call me and tell me that they had done something the night before. I would get out there, and if I was lucky, I would catch it. But it always had that element of chance. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't get that I knew was out there because I never was in the right place at the right time to catch it. And so, regrettably, I only ended up. I have 550 uh, trains preserved, ephemeral art preserved. Yeah, but there was, as you know, that was just the tip of the iceberg.
Were you like afraid at all?
Was I what?
Afraid while documenting this, going, you know, being a part, you know, of the graffiti culture of the time. And graffiti was different, and the trains were active, and there's
I
like,
wasn't. I wasn't afraid, and I was. The Bronx was famously. Nobody would go there. I read a book by a woman was whose husband was stationed here in the city, some kind of job, and she was intrigued by the Bronx, but she was told never go there, never go there. But she finally went, years into it, and she wrote a book called La Signora va nel Bronx. She was Italian. The lady goes to the Bronx. So it was kind of that sort of vibe, and I was not afraid. I There was a slow year. 78 was a slow year because the buff was working, and I'd wait and nothing would come by. And so I started then going down into the streets. So I wandered around the Bronx at a time when, people were like, oh no. and it was just, you know, normal life going on. So I never had any problems, and never was afraid until I think around 1985. I didn't want to go anymore because there was a period when there were snipers from the roofs of the projects,
Yeah.
and I thought, no,
85, 86.
that's not how I
got
want to
to
go
a
out.
new
And
level.
what could be more noticeable than this dude always in the same spot, you know, taking pictures? I thought, nah, I'm not going to do
Yeah,
it.
gun violence and crack under Reagan administration,
Yeah.
things really went to a different level.
How did Star Wars come to be? What was the beginning, or from the beginning? How did that happen?
I had the first person I knew you know, in New York when I moved here was my sister's college roommate, and so she was here, and um, she had married. She was married to a filmmaker named Tony Silver. So we were friends, and we moved here in '73. He kind of watched me doing what I was doing, and in 1981 there was a Village Voice article about breaking, which uh, actually which featured Rocksteady, and I had been the person who had assembled Rocksteady to do a performance. The article came out first, and it advertised my performance, and Tony saw that, and so he said I'm going to come and, you know, watch. And so I said, well, come to the dress rehearsal. So he came to the dress rehearsal. It was you know, I don't know, you probably heard, it was when the Ballbusters came and stopped the rehearsal in its tracks, and you know, I think their, you know, one of their enemies, Rocksteady was an enemy crew, and they were saying, why didn't you have us come? I said, well, I didn't know you, you know, so I'm what I knew them. So it fell apart. They wouldn't leave. Somebody that they had it in for appeared, and a gun came out, and the people in the exhibit, you know, Ramelzi and his family and Fab Five were in the you know, DJing, and they had machetes, and so the machetes came out. There was a gun. I'm there with my 9-year-old daughter.
Oh,
and
wow.
climbing up the ladder to the loft to call the police, but it was over before, you know, before it started. It was over. They ran. So, you know, it was this guy ran to the train station. They all ran after him. He got away. Nobody came back. But the owner of the space said to me, Henry, I don't have insurance to cover things like this, so we're not going to do it. So the show never happened. But Tony was at the dress rehearsal. So after this is over, he says to me, hey, Henry, I think there's a film in this. Do you want to work with me on a film? You can be the you know, anthropologist guy who tells me what the culture is, and I'll be the filmmaker. And I said, okay. So that's how it began.
And then from there, I was going to ask you, is there any writers that got left out of that movie that were supposed to be in it?
Well, like I say, from my point of view, I wanted to have Lee in it, and he didn't want to be in it for his, like I already told you the reasons. He thought, no, this is not something I want to reveal. I have my sacred spot, you know, I'm not going to do that. And then the other person, of course, I wanted Blade, and Blade wouldn't do it. And why? He said, well, look, he said, I just finished, and you saw it, car number 5,000. And I'm not going to be held responsible for 5,000 trains.
Yeah.
So
those guys were on the most wanted list at the time.
Yeah. So they were people that, of course, Tony wanted Cap to be in it, and he was one that I didn't want to be in it, because I thought, you know, if we put Cap in this thing, we're going to lose our connection with everybody else, because they hate him so much, you know. And they're all going on about, he did this, he did that, he went over my this, and he went over my that. He said, and Tony was saying, yeah, but we have all this footage of people talking about him. It's a perfect setup. But if you don't produce him, it's meaningless.
You needed him in there.
Yeah.
What
Had
was
to.
your experience with him? How was it working with him at that time?
Well, you know, he was fine. He's such a thug. And that's just the way he is. But I knew that there was, you know, Scene and he were friends, sort of on the DL.
Yeah.
They were friends, and I knew that. And so I said to Richie, I said, could you introduce me to Cap? And he said, sure. And so he did, and Cap came by, and I met him, and he said, yeah, I'll do your film. He said, but I'm gonna wear a mask. and I said, oh no, that's not good. He said, yeah, I'm gonna wear a mask. So I told Tony, hey, he's gonna wear a mask. Oh no, that can't be. I said, well, it's the only way you'll have him, because he says he's gonna wear a mask. So on the day of the filming, we go there, no mask. And I didn't even ask him. I said, I didn't say, where's your mask? I thought, oh yeah, yeah. And then during it, I think after it was over, I said, well, what happened to the mask? He said, you know, something like, people are gonna know what I look like. It's okay.
I know from personal experience, there were a lot of guys who didn't want to be on camera. They were nervous. They thought it would lead to arrest or what, or they just fancied themselves mysterious.
Yeah.
So one day again, Cess 157, Mike, tells me, yo, we're going to the bench. They're filming. He wanted me to come after school. And I was like, I don't want to be in a film.
No.
Now, I was nobody, but that was probably the day when they were teasing Mayor at the bench, that scene. That might have been me getting herbed on camera, you know what I mean? Like, because it was always like the smallest guy who you know, was the butt of the jokes or whatever. So I remember that Skeme had a little white guy, smaller than me, whose name was Doug. And Doug wrote Pain.
Pain, yes, Pain.
So Skeme used to use Doug as they had a salt and pepper paint racking routine.
Yeah.
Where Skeme would attract all the attention
and Doug
of the racist. And so me and Cess 157 began doing the same thing.
Yeah.
When Cess met me, he was like, oh, I need you on my team. And we would go to New Jersey. We would go all over and just come back with garbage bags full of paint. But he wanted me to come to the bench that day. He was like, yo, they're filming. Let's go. And I was like, who's filming? That's crazy.
What was the public's initial reaction to the film? The first one? Because is it the first real graffiti movie ever? It must be, right?
There were Wild Style beat us to the punch.
Oh yeah, but I feel like in my opinion, like Style Wars is way more iconic.
Yeah,
Manny Kirsheimer's Station of the Elevated.
That's right.
To me, would be the first film documentation.
That was the first.
But I don't know how wide a release that ever got. If people ever saw it, were you aware of it before your film?
After, I mean, yeah. I mean, I knew about it at a certain point, and then met Manny.
I only found it on VHS cassette later.
When it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did people react when it came out?
Well, there was, at the time, it was like 50-50 split. Half the people reacted like it's vandalism, you're encouraging vandalism. And the other half were, it's art. Look at this. This is now proof that it's art. And that was sort of, I remember there was the Margaret Mead Film Festival, and we showed it at that same year that it came out, and the audience was absolutely divided. It was almost like half the audience sat here and half the audience sat there, and the other ones were yelling at each other, no, it's garbage, vandalism. And, you know, these were saying, but look, it's art, you know. So that was then.
Did you get any feedback from the actual Vandal Squad detectives, the MTA's anti-graffiti force? Did they try to pressure you or tell you to give up this guy or that guy, or
No,
where does so and so live? Or
never. And these guys would turn up at shows,
mm-hmm.
and everybody kind of knew them and were joking with them, and they were joking back. They were perfectly pleasant. We interviewed them to be in the film, but we decided in the end that they were pretty boring interviews.
Oh, you guys interviewed them
Yeah.
before Style Wars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there footage? Does that footage exist anywhere? Well, it's never been released though.
No. No.
Wow.
And what year are we talking about? Because they say 83
we
but it came
we
up
shot it in. We started shooting in 81
81.
with Rocksteady, and then we had no money. You know, we used up all our money with the battle at USA, and the interview in the playground with Rocksteady, and
Rest in
it
peace,
was going to be a
Frosty
lot
Freeze.
more at the time. It was our idea at the time was it was going to have graffiti in it, but it was going to be a lot more about breaking, and we were going to have, you know, their families in it and that kind of thing, talking to their parents, and it never happened because they once they had management, which was on Cool Lady Blue was the manager. She wouldn't let them be interviewed. She said, "Well, I want to make a documentary," which she
Right.
never did. So, but that changed it. Tony was you know, suicidal. My wife Kathy had to talk him into doing it more about graffiti. She said, "Look, you know, don't, just because it's not going to be all about breaking. Look what Henry has done with graffiti, and he's in touch with all these people who do it. Why don't you do that?" And then it began to take shape. You know, in his mind, it took shape in that it was a big battle on the stage of New York City between, you know, the kids of the city and the elders, you know, the kids and the mayor and the politicians and the transit authority. This huge battle going on gave it the drama that he wanted it to have,
Sure.
and it was great because
Though dance would have been a lot more sympathetic.
Yeah,
than
yeah,
graffiti
and
writers are
yeah.
sometimes
and it would
not so popular
it would not
with
have
the
had,
public.
It would not have had the element of the illegal and all of that.
Now, that brings me to a point. The reason I asked you about your sculpture, filmmaking, photography, martial artist is because most of us were multidisciplinary. You know, we and people tend to want to make you one thing. Oh,
Yeah.
he's the photographer.
Uh-huh.
He's the this. And all the guys I looked up to, all the guys I knew, they could write, they could dance, they could MC, they could DJ. They were doing multiple things.
Yeah,
And they still are, many of
Yeah.
those who are still with us.
yeah,
And people are amazed now because they can only think, like, people made a big deal, rest in peace, K Slay, that, oh, the same guy who was a graffiti king became a DJ. I'm like, no, he was a DJ
already.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
can do multiple things.
Right.
And the kids I knew were famous skateboarders that
Uh-huh.
were graffiti writers.
Yeah.
They were rock stars and drummers and musicians. And
Yeah.
like, you know, it would have been weird to only do one thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Like, we were prepared to battle people in MCing and electric boogie
Sure.
and graffiti on
Yeah.
the same day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now
they were what I mean, and at your age at the time, you know, just 12, 13, 14, your mind is like a sponge, and it's picking up everything, so you can learn all these things.
But we were also outside all day and
Yeah.
night, and we were doing things.
Yeah.
Whereas kids now, their experience, I think, is a little more limited. So when you try, like recently, Fat Joe
Uh-huh.
has been telling his stories. He's got a podcast or whatever,
Yeah.
and everyone says he must be lying.
Uh-huh. Because
You
talks
couldn't have
about-
done all those things.
Yeah.
And we were living that life,
course.
you know, crime and music and drugs
Yeah.
and art
Yeah.
and all these things at the same
Yeah.
time, and going to clubs, like, you know, at a young age.
Right.
So for example, I once had somebody overseas. They asked me all kinds of questions. Oh, were there any other besides Tame One, rest in peace, and KRS? Were there any other graffiti writers who or MCs who wrote?
Hmm.
And I was like, all of them, every single fucking
Yeah.
one of them.
Yeah.
Every DJ I knew
Uh-huh.
who foundational to hip hop
Yeah.
or disco or club
Yeah.
music, they all wrote.
Yeah.
Some gave it up when this became financially
Right,
successful
right.
or whatever. But people don't
Their
believe.
formative years, they did it all
Yeah.
because that's what everybody was doing.
So Henry, when you were making Style Wars, did you have any idea that it was going to be what it was, like how culturally impactful it was? Like while you were making this, were you thinking this is going to be one of the most prolific, pieces of media, cultural media of all time, or were you guys just making it and it was kind of like we'll see what happens?
Well, Tony was a professional, so he had serious ambitions for the film, which otherwise it never would have gotten made. He knew how to do things like write grants for the Write for Grants. Found out you'd never do it now, thanks to our current government. You'd never get past the National Endowment for the Arts and the National Endowment for the Humanities. Channel 4 in Britain gave us money, and so did these foundations.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that because I don't want to get into politics and a lot of nonsense, but PBS is where this aired, Channel
Yes.
13.
Yeah.
That no longer exists, right?
Well, no, it's still, but it's on the
been
chopping block.
defunded. Yeah.
It's being defunded.
Because I
So-
was in a documentary we filmed in Newark
Yeah.
called The Writing on the Wall.
Uh-huh.
Maybe 85.
Uh-huh.
A woman, Sandra, I forget her name, but it aired on
Uh-huh.
Channel 13.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is where all these things that are now these huge cultural touchstones.
Right now. Yeah.
No one else would. It's not like they were showing in mainstream outlets.
Mhm.
Public broadcasting is what gave these kind
Yes.
of fringe
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. To its credit, to its eternal credit, it was not by no means inevitable. We did not get a grant from the National Endowment of the Humanities. Why? Because this guy named William Bennett was the head of it. And William Bennett was one of these right-wing guys. And so the people who worked under him wouldn't even show it. They said, no, it'll never fly because he'll veto it. So we got our first money from the National Endowment of the Arts, which without that, I don't know. We had some money from, like I say, from Channel 4 in Britain, but it took a lot of money to do. So without the National Endowment money, it would have been really much harder. That helped. That was one of the big ones.
And Subway Art, the book, did you have any idea the staying power that might have? Because that thing
No.
is like the Bible. We're in the
We-
printing now? How many
yeah,
editions are deep?
we
are
thought we because we got the publisher, and we were very happy to get a publisher, and they said we'll make the first run of 3,000,
which were all stolen.
which were all stolen. First the covers fell off,
Yeah.
and then they had to redo it. So 6 months later, it came out again with better covers. It stuck.
I had the
But
one
it
that
was only
didn't
3,000, and
bind.
they were all stolen. So it had a kind of slow, jerky start, and we were happy with the 3,000. We said, "Wow, 3,000 books! You know, we have a book that's being published, and they're running it, and there are going to be 3,000 copies in bookstores."
What do
And we
those
were-
numbers look like today?
As far as I know, and the overall, the Subway Art went for like 500,000 copies, and that's with the original Subway Art. I don't know because there's one that they're still selling in Britain.
I have a
And it
25th
and
anniversary
the
is about
25th
this
anniversary
big.
one. Yeah.
I have that.
With too big to steal.
And I have my original with the cover falling off, but I
Yeah.
tagged on every page.
Yeah.
I
Good.
wrote on everything with
That's
purple supermarket
that's
ink.
wonderful.
No, it's not.
that
I-
gives it its authenticity.
Yes.
What's your favorite part of Style Wars? That stuck with you? Like that you look back and you're like, this is.
Oh, I think Skeme and his mother.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That has to be
Rest in
for all
peace.
kinds of reasons. You know that it is so. It's an icon of parent and child. You know, smart ass child and strict but humorous parent.
Could you walk us through the day, like how could you like the day of shooting that?
Yeah, I mean we shot. I forget what we shot. We had 2 shoots, and that was one of them. And we went to their house. I had met his mother. You know, because I'd asked him. I said, "Do you think your mother would be down to part of this?" And he, huh?
How old was Skeme?
Well, he was 17. And he said, "Yeah." He said, "My mom's will certainly probably do it. So I'll ask her." And he said, "Yeah, she'll do it." And I met her, and she said to me, "What I have to say about this subject, you don't even want to hear." I said, "No, yes, exactly. That's what we want to hear.
Mhm.
We want to have all sides, you know, in this thing." So, and you know, she definitely produced with her attitude, and he with his attitude, his smart ass attitude of you know, and so arrogant, and would drive a parent wild. And it was just a perfect combination of parent and child. And the cameraman was so gifted that even though it wasn't scripted, he could follow with perfect camera movements this conversation between the two. Even when, yeah, Skeme would say something outrageous, and but he didn't rush back. He would just he stay on steam a moment, and then gradually, just in time to catch her smirk. And it was so the timing of those movements, and I was so impressed by that. As
You know my friend Babito Garcia?
Bobito, yeah,
His favorite, or at least to me, our inside joke, every time we talk, you do.
yeah,
You do. You do. That
No, I know, I don't doodle. Yes, you do. You do doodle.
when you be on the phone and you doodle. Yeah. It
God.
never fails to get a chuckle. And of
Yeah.
course, the other big long-term running joke, which I'm like, wait a minute, there might be something there. Dave Chino wants to do the musical version, the Broadway musical, where it's operatic, where with,
Yeah.
with Cap wearing a Viking helmet.
Well, you know that God, who was it? That Todd. Yeah, Todd started to make one.
Really?
Yeah, and it exists, a few scenes, and it's brilliant. And of course, they stopped. They couldn't, you know, they wanted to make a movie or a Broadway show, and they had, you know, they had men in it. Todd was in it, and I'll have to dig it. I have to dig it up. It's just
that
brilliant.
needs to be.
It's just brilliant.
Of course, that would have
But
been
it
a
was only
job
a
for
couple of-
Sasha Jenkins. Rest in
Yeah.
peace. That would have been right up his alley.
Yeah.
The soundtrack for the movie, did the writers in the movie help pick that out, or was that you and Tony?
The sound
Because I think the
largely
soundtrack is amazing.
I picked the music.
Like I think it's amazing how
And-
it was like Grandmaster Flash.
Yeah.
And Keon and
Yeah.
like it's just
Yeah, it was what was
every
going on
song
at the time.
fits
Yeah.
so well.
Yeah, it worked out, and that's, you know, I picked
Did you
the-
have to license that stuff?
Yes.
Oh,
Wow.
I know. So I picked it. Tony liked it. Sam, you know, Pollard was the editor, made it work. It works so well with the rhythm of his editing and the picture.
It's perfect.
It's
I think
just
every song is
amazing. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
everything matches.
Uh-huh.
each person, each scene, like
Yeah.
the intro when
Uh-huh.
light hits the train. Like,
That was Tony. Tony had that brilliant idea.
It's
Yeah.
perfect, like 10 out of 10.
He said, we're going to start with Wagner. And, Sam was like, even he was skeptical. He said, I don't know. But then he kind of talked to his son and other younger people, and they were like, yeah, yeah. So we did that.
Who came up with the name of the movie?
I don't remember. But we had, it was kind of obvious because while we were doing it in 1981, Knock did that painting
Yeah.
of his train,
Which
and
was
so it
based
was
on
just-
Star Wars of 1977.
But the idea, the way he wrote it, it was two different styles, and called Style Wars. It was kind of inevitable, and I forget which one of us came up with it, but we all agreed.
So Knox's car came first.
Yeah.
Now, I've heard a story from Stan 153, rest in peace, that those characters, which were Knox's kind of bootleg, weird, trippy version of Von Baudet's Necron 9,
Mhm.
that Stan told me they had a company together called Masterworks. They were trying to do some graphic arts,
Uh-huh.
Knock and Stan, and that Ralph Bakshi came and purchased some sketches from them that
Oh, yeah.
became the movie Wizards.
Oh, you're kidding.
And he told me he sold that Knox sold him those drawings for like $50.
Wow.
So this to me is incredible. I don't know if you can shed any light on that, because most people think that Bakshi's Wizards was biting off of Von Baudet's Necron 9.
Uh-huh.
But the way Stan tells it is
Mm.
Bakshi was copying Knock, copying Baudet.
Really? Wow.
Didn't even know the source material
Wow.
for that particular, it's like a guy riding
Yeah.
a dinosaur.
Yeah. 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 Right. I was amongst those who didn't know anything. And I knew that I could recognize all the Baudet characters. And,
Right.
And then I, was reading Junk Waffle and figuring that out. But I didn't know, Bakshi. That was not part of my background.
Well, I was the generation we were copying graffiti artists' lizards. We
Yeah.
didn't know the source material. It wasn't till later, till I start coming to the village,
Mhm.
Soho Zat, and
Yeah.
comic book stores, where we found actual underground comics and Von Baudet and what was the aardvark everybody used to paint. I think
Yeah.
Crash painted one on your studio
Yes.
with a sword in
Yes.
his hand.
Yes.
Cerebus.
And that was
Cerebus.
Cerebus.
Yeah.
And that
We-
was, yeah.
I learned these things from the graffiti artists' spray painted versions before I ever saw the originals.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like hearing a rap song and then learning what to sample and going back and finding the original record,
Uh-huh. Yeah. That is fast. Tony's next project was Underground Comics.
Really?
And
Rest
he was
in
working
peace.
with 2P, yeah. Rest in
How
peace,
did
Tony.
did he actually film some stuff, or it was
He
underway?
was working with two British women on it. They didn't get the money, and they fell apart. Unfortunately, they conflicted, and so it was never made. But I think that would have brought a lot of light onto the subject. I think it's really sad and tragic that he didn't get to make it. And he went back to making trailers after that. He didn't really try, and he regretted it. He died way before his time, and that would have continued his career. And it's sad that didn't happen.
Were there any writers that you regret not featuring in the film that you thought were style masters that should have been shown in the book and film that didn't make the cut? I mean, you know, Dondi to me was the pinnacle. That was the letter guy. For whole cars, yes, Lee and Scene UA and Blade for blockbusters but for wild style, Dondi to me was, you know, that was the pinnacle. Were there other guys that you consider masters that didn't make the cut or didn't agree to be in it?
I didn't know him at the time, but with Chain
3, yeah,
and in general, those guys that were TMT and also the TDS guys were
Cool 131.
Yeah,
but they were kind of on a hiatus in 81, 82, 83,
yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Part made a comeback strong. But
I think, you know, I wish that they had been involved and TMT had been involved. But they, you know, their children were, you know, with Skeme and Dez, and, you know, they carried on. A lot of people were influenced by those.
Well, to me, a generation in graffiti is about 3 years.
Yeah.
So the guys who were on top in 77, by 79, 80, there's a brand new crop coming up, and those guys are getting into adult things and getting jobs and girlfriends. And, joining
18,
the army.
18, it's serious. Happened to Skeme, 18.
Yeah.
Mother said, get your shit together or leave home.
Yeah. He had a 2-year career.
Yeah.
That was it. 79 to 82, he joined the military and did an incredible amount and influenced the world in 2 years.
Yep.
Now I see graffiti writing, you know, I'm 58. I'm still trying to master this thing. And these guys were kids, like, you know, now I get grown men asking me to teach them. They want to take a class. They want to pay me to learn. I'm like, nah, my man, if you didn't start when you were 7, you probably shouldn't start now. Yeah.
People would say to me, oh, Henry, you're so lucky. You must have incredible style. You're surrounded by all these style masters all the time. I'm ashamed.
One thing I want to circle back to, if possible, about Cat.
Yeah.
I feel like he's such an important part of the film, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously, most of the film is like informative and, you know, it's historical. And how did you guys feel about him promoting, like, he promotes, you know, violence and
racism?
Yeah, racism and just was he really, you know, that violent of a dude back then?
Yeah, he was. I mean, and he did go to the yard with, you know, armed
shotgun and an axe, a fire axe. They used to wear long coats in the summer. Him and PJ, we seen them coming with trench coats in the summertime.
Like
everybody ran.
Yeah,
30 of us.
Yeah, and the incident at the High School of Art and Design.
PG3, rest in peace, got shot in the back. Yeah, it was serious.
They shot him.
And, see, to us, they were like grown men already. Maybe Is the Wiz and guys like that. It was like, whoa, those are adults. Yeah. We were frightened to death of them. Never mind, these kids. Guys have shotguns. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right.
How did you guys feel about him promoting violence in the film?
We thought it was an important element to include, and I'm glad that it. You know, we were actually meant to shoot at the High School of Art and Design that day, and we called it off beforehand, not because of any threats or anything like that, but because we were running out of money and we were choosing this or that shoot, and I forget which other thing we thought, no, we really have to get this thing. We can't go there. Maybe we'll get it together later. And we were, you know, we were relieved because that would have put a whole other spin on the film. We were definitely relieved that didn't happen on our watch. You know, so the sort of his obvious racism and his was an element of it, definitely. and and his sort of boasting and violence and stuff was just just enough, without indulging in it.
I met him recently. I shot him. I documented him for something, and I can only imagine what that dude was like back then. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I can only imagine like
it's
that.
scary to.
Was he different off camera, or was he exactly the same?
Yeah, I mean, it was a front, to be all tough like that on camera, and he was more congenial off camera. But he was, it was performative.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Did anything arise from that, like after his, like after the film came out and his part was released? Did any beef start from that or anything, or did you guys get any like stick for that?
They borrowed the concept for Beat Street
Wow.
because they had
Spit.
One of the producers of Beat Street had been shown a copy of our rough cut,
Mm-hmm.
and so we were disturbed to find that out, and
Which
that's why
was
that's
a
why
regrettably
we have,
terrible film.
we have a credit in the crawl, Tony and I.
They couldn't use real graffiti artists because of the union at the
Right,
time.
right.
Scenic painters had to
Yeah.
try to recreate
Yeah,
graffiti, and I'm just
I
like,
know. I
that
know.
could have been such a better film.
Yeah, no, but that was bad. I mean, as far as dance goes, it was good.
Sure. Some of the music was questionable. It was kind of fakey hip hop pop.
But it was, and also even in the creation of the dance, the party was sold as a party, and it was really an audition.
Yeah.
And the people who did not get auditions after that were like, I thought we were going to be have auditions, and they didn't know that had been the party had been the audition.